He served 8 years in prison, but authorities are looking for him again after some trouble on the border. Can you help catch him tonight?
What we do know about trauma is that what you see on the surface is not necessarily what's going on inside.
It's a first of its kind center in San Antonio helping children and families. What makes this program a little bit different? And what did you get your Valentine? How about a concussion? South Texas Most Wanted starts right now. On any given day, there are more than 20,000 open warrants in Bexar County alone. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. We start the night with a crime that is not only costly, frankly, it's just annoying, even to people who aren't victims. And it landed our suspect on tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. Nathan Roddy is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active arrest warrant for allegedly violating the conditions of his supervised release. Back in August of 2010, Roddy was sentenced to 41 months in prison on charges involving possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and credit card fraud. Now, credit card fraud is big business. Most of the people I know have had to deal with it at some point. Florida leads the nation in credit card fraud, but Texas does make the top 10. Now, in case you're wondering, the states with the least credit card fraud, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Hawaii. Just in Texas, credit card fraud costs people more than $100 million a year. Now, those new credit cards with chip technology are supposed to help with the problem, but experts warn those chips do not protect you online, which is where most credit card fraud is committed. In Texas, even holding a credit card without permission that you know does not belong to you is considered a crime. What kind of a crime? It's actually a felony, punishable by 6 months to 2 years in prison. However, if the crime is committed against an elderly person, that punishment goes up. Now you're looking at a third-degree felony and 2 to 10 years in prison. Back to Mr. Roddy. He served his time and was on supervised release. In September of last year, Roddy allegedly violated his parole when he was arrested by San Antonio police for being in possession of a firearm and evading arrest. After being released on bond, Nathan Roddy has not been seen since. Roddy has a criminal history including assault and illegal drug use. His last known residence is on the northeast side. U.S. Marshals do consider him a dangerous criminal, so if you know anything about his whereabouts, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
You never know where you might find a fugitive on the run, and police believe this next one may work at one of the most popular places in town. Francisco Ornelas is charged with evading arrest with a vehicle, criminal trespassing, giving false identification, and assault with bodily injury of a security officer. Now, normally a simple assault is a Class A misdemeanor and you will not get more than a year in jail. But if Ornelas knew his victim was a security officer when he assaulted him, that bumps it up to a third-degree felony, and now you are looking at 2 to 10 years in prison. The 21-year-old's last known address is on South Pine Street, right off I-10 and Hackberry. He is known to frequent the southeast side of town, and authorities say he may have recently had a job working at the AT&T Center. If you have any information, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Make the difference, make the call.
It was major business back in the 70s and 80s, and while experts say America's appetite for cocaine has gone down, it certainly has not gone away. And authorities say one local man was using it to make big business, and that's what got him on our South Texas Most Wanted. Authorities are looking for your help in locating Reynaldo Humberto Guzman, who is wanted for having an active warrant for violating the conditions of his supervised release. Supervised release is what we used to call probation. Now, the 45-year-old stands 5 feet 8, 240 pounds, so you likely will not find him at a salad bar. Back in June of 2007, Guzman was sentenced to 8 years in prison on charges of possession with intent to distribute more than 5 kilograms of cocaine. For those of us who don't work on the metric system, that's over 11 pounds. Now, cocaine use has actually gone down in the United States over the past few years, but the National Institute on Drug Abuse reports that in 2013, almost 2 million Americans admitted to using the drug, and remember, those are the ones who admit it. Now back to Guzman. After serving his time, he was also ordered to serve 5 years of supervised release, but in March of 2015, Guzman allegedly violated those conditions when he was arrested in Laredo on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and engaging in an organized criminal act. He was released on bond and has not been seen since. Authorities say Guzman is known to carry a gun, so he should be considered armed and dangerous. They also say he is known to carry out crimes against innocent people, and that is what is making him a priority for U.S. Marshals. If you can help us find Reynaldo Humberto Guzman, call the South Texas Most Wanted hotline. Make the difference. Make the call. Still to come, it's a brand new center offering mental health help for children and families who are in need. We're going to show you exactly how they're doing that. And he already spent 2 years in prison, but now he's on the run again. Find out why. South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back.
You're a numbers guy? Let's talk stats. More than 220,000. That's how many American men will be diagnosed this year alone with the second most common cancer in men, prostate cancer. That's 1 in 7 men. 1 in 5 if you're African American. 1 in 3 if you have a brother or father that's been diagnosed. Do you know your stats? Talk to your doctor about your prostate health and visit knowyourstats.org today and stay in the game for life.
Security was not a career for me. I wasn't happy. I felt not welcome. There's a difference in doing a job and doing something that you like to do. Good Careers Academy changed my life. I feel wonderful. Your goodwill changes everything.
They call it a place where hope becomes reality. The Harvey Najum Hope Center is a specialized trauma-focused outpatient mental health clinic. They say treat the root cause of child abuse not by asking what is wrong, but by asking what has happened to you. And that's what makes them a South Texas difference maker.
Our services are open to anyone in San Antonio who has had the experience of trauma in their lives. Children who come to the children's shelter typically have been brought here by Child Protective Services or by San Antonio police officers, and it's typically because they're removing them from some situation that has caused them harm or has the potential of causing them harm. And so once they arrive here, we see them here at the Hope Center. Our therapists and social workers begin to work with them so that we can begin the process of healing for them. What we felt that we were missing is that we weren't really addressing their mental health needs, and so that's why we decided we would create the Hope Center. And it's different than any other outpatient clinic for children in San Antonio. The Hope Center is an outpatient mental health clinic, and it specializes in treating children and families that have been affected by abuse, neglect, or abandonment. And so what we are designed to do is help to heal trauma, which is what happens when abuse or neglect or abandonment happens to children.
And it should be pointed out, I mean, people who don't have health insurance and the like, I mean, is this free?
We are actually seeking grants to help people that don't have insurance, and so we will not turn anyone away. We want people to get help.
I hear those children's voices in the background. Obviously, it's a nice thing to hear because they're having fun. Mm-hmm. But I guess in a perfect world, they wouldn't be here.
That's right. I mean, children are very resilient, and so even though they've experienced some adversity in their lives, you know, their natural state is to be happy and joyful and playful. But what we do know about trauma is that what you see on the surface is not necessarily what's going on inside. And we do know that trauma affects children with their behavior, with their emotions. It can set them back developmentally. Children that have experienced trauma without the appropriate intervention don't have positive outcomes in life. They tend to get behind in school. They have difficulty controlling themselves. As they get older, they may experience depression and anxiety. It's not a short-term treatment. It can take up to 6, maybe 9 months to complete the process. And then our social workers work with the entire family, because we know that trauma affects the whole family. It's not just a child that's been impacted, it's everyone in that home.
Personally, how do you, whenever you see a family come out on the other side, how does that make you feel?
Oh my gosh, it's the most rewarding feeling in the world. That's why we do what we do. You know, our passion is helping people. And the process is just remarkable. I mean, it truly transforms people's lives. And there's just nothing more rewarding that a person can do, I don't think, in my mind.
The Najib Hope Center is open to any child or family that has been traumatized by abuse, neglect, or even abandonment. And they follow the families for up to a year of treatment to make sure there's not a relapse. For more information on the program, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. And if you know of anyone who's making a big difference in South Texas, let us know. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Trudy Stone.
Still to come, your tips and information already making South Texas a safer place. We'll show you some of the fugitives you have helped us catch up with. And you know the old song, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? Well, when you don't get Valentine's Day right, sometimes the ball game comes to you. We'll show you what we're talking about in tonight's They Say You Did What? South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back.
Who helps a hero? Who tells the story of their scars? Our freedom is defended by the sacrifices of a courageous few. Who helps a hero? We all do. The Gary Sinise Foundation serves America's defenders through entertainment, the construction of smart homes for our wounded, and by encouraging others to support the veterans within their communities. We enjoy the benefits of their sacrifice and service each day. It's time we serve them. Find out how you can help at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
On any given day, there are more than 20,000 open arrest warrants in Bexar County alone. You can help change that. Watch South Texas Most Wanted, Saturday nights, only on Fox San Antonio.
Went over it several times in my mind. Was this the right time for me to retire? Goodwill really wanted to help the veterans that were coming out, and they offered me the chance to go down there and become a part of it. It was a veterans assistance program. It's helped me to reach my goal of becoming a financial counselor. Your goodwill changes everything.
You're a numbers guy? Let's talk stats. More than 220,000. That's how many American men will be diagnosed this year alone with the second most common cancer in men, prostate cancer. That's 1 in 7 men. 1 in 5 if you're African American. 1 in 3 if you have a brother or father that's been diagnosed. Do you know your stats? Talk to your doctor about your prostate health and visit knowyourstats.org today and stay in the game for life.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
Authorities are looking for Lamar Calvin White. He is wanted for allegedly violating the conditions of his supervised release. Now, back in May of 2011, White was sentenced to 24 months in prison on a charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Now, after that, he was also ordered to serve 3 years of probation. But authorities say the 30-year-old continually tested positive for the use of cocaine and opiates and stopped attending mandatory meetings with his probation officer. Now, remember, White had already done his time in prison, but by violating his probation, he could be facing anything from an extended probation to 2 to 10 years back behind bars. Likely one of the reasons he does not want to be found, but his artwork might make that a problem. As you can see, White has multiple tattoos on his chest, his abdomen, and his right arm. Authorities say White has a violent criminal history that includes assault, engaging in organized criminal activity, possession of a firearm, possession with intent to deliver cocaine, and evading arrest. If you have any information on Lamar White, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
Your tips and information are already making South Texas a safer place, and they are part of the reason why these fugitives are no longer on the run. It appears the need for a breath of fresh air cost Tranquilino Villarreal his freedom. The 32-year-old was wanted after jumping bail on a DWI. He is also facing charges of failing to identify himself as a fugitive, giving false information, and possession of a controlled substance. Villarreal was located at some apartments in downtown San Antonio, right across the street from the Institute of Texan Cultures. Bounty hunters tracked him there, and when he came out to the balcony of the apartment to get some fresh air, they were able to positively identify him. That's when the San Antonio police pounced. Now, just the DWI charge could get Villarreal up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. But add in those other charges, and Villarreal could be looking at 2 years in prison and at least $8,000 in fines. And Richard Guzman may be in more trouble at home than he is with the law. The 28-year-old was wanted on a charge of criminal mischief. Authorities managed to track him to his home on Hoover Street, just off of South Zarzamora. Police say after a lengthy conversation with his wife inside the home, Guzman finally decided to give himself up peacefully. Now, in this case, Guzman is facing a Class A misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $4,000 fine. But believe it or not, in Texas, criminal mischief can go up to a first-degree felony. That depends on the amount of damage that has been done, and that can get you up to 99 years in prison. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
So, okay, last Sunday was Valentine's Day, a day where the right gift can be a real home run. But if you fall asleep at the plate, that could cause your significant other to strike out. It's a baseball theme. Stay with me. Here's our JT Street with this week's They Say You Did What?
In the game of tennis, love is what you have when you have nothing. Unfortunately for her husband, though, Kimberly Hammond is more of a baseball fan. When the 46-year-old Ohio woman found out that her husband got her nothing but love for Valentine's Day, Washington County deputies say she grabbed a miniature baseball bat and swung for his head, knocking the poor guy unconscious. Hammond wasn't done there, though. Allegedly, she tried to hit for the cycle, continuing to beat her husband as he came to, until he was able to escape and authorities showed up and arrested Hammond. Her husband declined EMS treatment but did have several visible bruises and a big knot to the head. Love is a many splintered thing. According to deputies, Hammond, who bears a striking resemblance to Babe Ruth, admitted to hitting the bottle before hitting her husband. She blew a .221. That's higher than some major league batting averages. Hammond has been arrested and charged with felonious assault and domestic violence. She's currently in the Washington County Jail, where she is no doubt being recruited to bat cleanup in the prison softball league. I'm JT Street, and that's been this week's They Say You Did What?
I'll admit I did not give my wife the greatest Valentine's Day ever, but at least she did not take a bat to my head. At least not yet. Still to come, imagine being a new mom and having a personal nurse for more than 2 years. There's a local program that does that. We'll introduce you to it. Still to come.
Only Film Flickers brings you the latest Hollywood trailers, special sneak peeks, and behind-the-scenes looks at the biggest stars.
And it's also the only place you can win exciting prizes right there in your living room.
Join us for Film Flickers.
Sunday night at 9 on the CW35.
Everywhere that we go, he makes people laugh and makes people smile, and I feel like I have that quality.
He's the one who always takes me fishing.
I watch golf with him. And
I watch him cook, because when I grow up, I want to be a cook too.
We have the same faces like this.
Dad is the one, when you fall, that picks you up.
That unconditional sense of presence and reassurance is really what makes him my father.
You're a numbers guy? Let's talk stats. More than 220,000. That's how many American men will be diagnosed this year alone with the second most common cancer in men, prostate cancer. That's 1 in 7 men. 1 in 5 if you're African American. 1 in 3 if you have a brother or father that's been diagnosed. Do you know your stats? Talk to your doctor about your prostate health and visit knowyourstats.org today and stay in the game for life.
Went over it several times in my mind. Was this the right time for me to retire? Goodwill really wanted to help the veterans that were coming out, and they offered me the chance to go down there and become a part of it. It was a veterans assistance program. It's helped me to reach my goal of becoming a financial counselor. Your goodwill changes everything.
Being a first-time mom can be an incredibly happy time, but it can also be a scary time. Well, imagine having a medical expert coming to your home once a week and checking on that child and mom. That's what the incredible program called the Nurse Family Partnership does, and that's what makes them one of our South Texas Most Wanted difference makers.
A huge thing that I remember is when I kept having nightmares that I was giving my baby a bath and my baby would fall, and I would wake up screaming like, oh my gosh.
We're a support program that helps them get education to improve their prenatal health, and when their babies are born, to help them to be the best parents possible.
As a new mom, you have so many questions, and you have the advice from your parents and then from his parents, and it's really, really nice to have them there because they're giving you facts, not something that, oh, when I had a baby or when she had a baby. No, it's the fact of this is how it's done and this is why it's done. I'm gonna win. Aha!
I suck.
No, you do not suck. Let's try again, and we don't say that word.
In the information, it says it's a 2-year program, but it's actually more than a 2-year program.
Yes, the requirements are to enroll them before the 28th gestational age, before they're 28 weeks pregnant. Because the earlier they're in the program, the better chances of getting the right information to improve their prenatal health.
So enchanted with you were the wind and the rain, and that they whisper the sound of your wonderful name. It was 2 years and plus before the baby comes. So it's more than 2 years. And at first when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can stick to that for this long because it's a very long process. But no, it was actually really, really easy. And when they were gone, I missed them.
No, there is no age restriction as long as they are first-time moms. And the other criteria is below the 185th percentile poverty level. We see the mothers on the average of every week to 2 weeks, and we from prenatal through age 2. Every mother has their own successes. Some mothers might succeed in finishing high school, and that was one of their best moments for them, and so I celebrate their successes, not my successes.
There's studies coming out every single year. I'm sure there's studies coming out every single month, and we learn different things about babies all the time. So it's important for all moms to be educated, and it's so easy to be educated when you have a nurse coming in and telling you all this information. So you don't have to spend hours on WebMD and scare yourself.
While the Nurse Family Partnership is open to all first-time mothers who qualify and it's free, they do tend to see a lot of teenaged mothers. So a big focus is getting those new moms to continue their education and develop job skills. If you know of a person or group that is making a difference in South Texas, call us on our hotline, or you can contact us through our Facebook page. For South Texas Most Wanted Difference Makers, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
There are 8 registered nurses at the Nurse Family Partnership, and between them, they handle at least 200 new moms on a continuous basis. And remember, that's for more than 2 years. South Texas Most Wanted will be right back.
Coming out of the military, it's really hard to try and find a job. A little fearful of how I was going to take care of my family at that point. Through Good Careers Academy, I was able to find a direction and be able to get into a pharmacy tech program. Your goodwill changes everything.
Only Film Flickers brings you the latest Hollywood trailers, special sneak peeks, and behind-the-scenes looks at the biggest stars.
And it's also the only place you can win exciting prizes right there in your living room.
Join us for Film Flickers.
Sunday night at 9 on the CW35.
You're a numbers guy? Let's talk stats. More than 220,000. That's how many American men will be diagnosed this year alone with the second most common cancer in men, prostate cancer. That's 1 in 7 men. 1 in 5 if you're African American. 1 in 3 if you have a brother or father that's been diagnosed. Do you know your stats? Talk to your doctor about your prostate health and visit knowyourstats.org today and stay in the game for life.
Before we go, let's take a look back on some of the suspects who made tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. Nathan Roddy is wanted by U.S. Marshals for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release. Back in August of 2010, Roddy was sentenced to 3 years in prison on charges involving possession of a firearm by a felon and credit card fraud. Now, just in Texas, credit card fraud costs people more than $100 million a year. Now, the 33-year-old served his time and was on supervised release, but in September of last year, Roddy allegedly violated his parole when he was arrested by San Antonio police for being in possession of a firearm and evading arrest. His last known residence is on the northeast side. Reynaldo Humberto Guzman is also wanted for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release. Back in June of 2007, Guzman was sentenced to 8 years in prison on charges of possession with intent to distribute more than 11 pounds of cocaine. After serving his time, he was on supervised release when authorities say in March of 2015, Guzman was arrested in Laredo on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and engaging in an organized criminal act. U.S. Marshals do consider the 45-year-old to be armed and dangerous. Francisco Ornelas is charged with evading arrest with a vehicle, criminal trespassing, giving a false identification, and assault with bodily injury of a security officer. Now, if it can be proven that Ornelas knew that that was a security officer when he assaulted him, that could be 2 to 10 years in prison. He is known to frequent the east side of town, and authorities say he may have recently had a job working at the AT&T Center. If you have any information on any of these suspects, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline, the number 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. That's going to do it for us tonight. As always, thank you very much for staying up late. Remember, you can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. I'm Michael Valdez for South Texas Most Wanted. Have a good night.